thank you for visiting my YouTube channel. I know you want to watch the video. Before I get into the content, I'm going to talk about my nonprofit, the Accelerated Training Program, a cybersecurity and digital literacy nonprofit based in Charlotte, North Carolina. We are looking to provide accessible cybersecurity education and digital literacy skills to underrepresented groups from the K through 12 space right now, but we have on our roadmap collegiate, elderly populations, etc. Pretty much anyone from an underrepresented group. We want them to get cybersecurity education and digital literacy skills to bring them into the ever increasing digital world that we live in now. If that sounds like something that you're interested in, we do have a donate button if you would like to donate monetarily. We're always accepting donations. If you would like to volunteer your time, we have a volunteer tab where we're looking for workshop volunteers. Currently, we have 1 month workshops, but we're looking to expand that in 2024. Board members, advisory board members, and a grant writer. So if you're a grant writer, if you have experience in grant writing and also winning grants, we would definitely love to have you on our team. To be considered, please complete the volunteer form here, which is a link that will navigate you to a Google form. And again, we're a cybersecurity, digital literacy nonprofit, and we would love to work with you if that is your passion as well. Thank you. Have a good day. And now the video is going to start. Hello, and welcome to another Avid of Cyber room. In this video, we're going to do day 10. As I said, I'm doing these rooms out of order, but I am committed to doing all of the rooms. I did it last year. I am committed to repeating, keeping the streak alive this year. Okay. So day 10, SQL injection, inject the halls with exec queries. Oh, this is going to be my favorite because web is life. Yes. Okay. So the machine is starting, and I think I'm going to need the attack box. So let me just start that. Okay. So we could be reading while it is starting. Okay. So the Best Festival companies started receiving many reports that their company website, bestfestival.thm, is displaying some concerning information about the state of Christmas this year. After looking into the matter, Santa's Security Operations Center, SSOC, confirmed that the company website has been hijacked and ultimately defaced, causing significant reputational damage. To make matters worse, the web development team has been locked out of the web server as the user credentials have been changed. With no other way to revert the changes, Elf Exploit McRed has been tasked with attempting to hack back into the server to regain access. After conducting some initial research, Elf Forensic McBlue came across a forum post made on the popular Black Hat hacking internal forum Jingle Hacks. The post, made earlier in the month, explains that the poster is auctioning off several active vulnerabilities related to Best Festival Company systems. Okay, so Best Festival Company bones for sale. Hello, Jingle Hacks forums. As the merger of Best Festival Company approaches, I find myself in possession of knowledge that's as good as gold. I've decided to auction off these vulnerabilities to the highest bidder. The stakes are high and the potential rewards are even higher. If you got the skills and resources to make use of this information, you're in for a serious payday. I won't reveal all the details here, but I can confirm that these vulnerabilities are both 0 days and known issues that Best Festival Company hasn't addressed. The treasure includes potential entry points, data access, and even the possibility of exposing classified information. To bid, reply to this thread with your offer. I'll provide a secure channel for the winning bidder to transfer payment. Okay. This forum post surely explains the havoc that has gone on over the past week over the past week. Armed with this knowledge, Elf Exploit McRed began testing the company website from the outside to find the vulnerable components that led to the server compromise. As a result of McRed's thorough investigation, the team now suspects a possible SQL injection vulnerability. So, in today's task, we will learn how to understand and identify SQL injection vulnerabilities, exploit stacked queries to turn SQL injection into remote code execution, help Elf McRed restore the Best Festival website, and save its reputation. So, we need the attack box and we need the VM. Okay, so SQL, structured query language, is essentially. Wait, hold on, because I think we have the first Best Festival. Because I want to be answering some of these questions as we go. Okay, so let me go. Best Festival.thn. Okay. Best Festival.thn. Okay. Maybe it hasn't loaded yet. Okay. Okay. We gotta wait 15 minutes. Okay, we'll keep reading. Structured query language is essential for working with relational databases and building dynamic websites. Even if you've never explicitly used SQL before, chances are you frequently interact with databases. Whether you're checking your bank account balance online, browsing through products on an e-commerce website, or posting a status on social media, you're indirectly querying and altering databases. SQL is one of the most popular languages that makes this all possible. Relational databases are structured data collections organized into tables, each consisting of various rows and columns. Within these collections, tables are interconnected with predefined relationships, facilitating efficient data organization and retrieval. For example, an e commerce relational database might include tables for customers, orders, and products, with relationships defined to link customer information to their respective orders through the use of identifiers. So, we have a customer ID, which links to customer. We have a product ordered, which links to product ID. SQL provides a rigid way to query, insert, update, and delete the data stored in these tables, allowing you to retrieve and alter databases as needed. A website or application that relies on a database must dynamically generate SQL queries and send them to the database engine to fetch or update the necessary data. The syntax of SQL queries is based on English and consists of structured commands using keywords like select, so that's select, from, where, and join to express operations in a natural language like way. We'll leverage an example of a database table to represent the tracking and cataloging of Christmas tree ornaments. The table and column structure might look like below. So we have an ornament ID, an elf ID, the color, the category, material, date created, and price. And a simple example above, we have defined a database table ornament to store ornaments with various columns that provide characteristics or qualities related to each item. We can run various SQL queries against this table to retrieve, update, or delete specific data. For example, select star from table ornaments where material equals wood. So that would return row 3. It will return this row because the material is wood. The select statement returns all columns for the ornaments where the material is specifically wood. So, select ornament ID color category from table ornaments where FID equals 102. So, again, it will return the ornament ID of 3, the color of green, the category of tree. The select statement will return all the ornaments created by the elf with the ID 102. Unlike the first statement, this query only returns the ornaments ID, color, and category. The this insert statement. Okay, so now we're inserting into the ornaments. So we provide the columns first: ornament ID, FID, color, category, material, date created, and price. And then we enter the values of 5, 105, blue, star, glass, 1210, 2023, 499. This insert statement adds a new ornament to the table created by the ELF with the ID 105 and the specified value for each column. Okay, PHP. PHP is a popular general purpose scripting language that plays a crucial role in web development. Web is life. It enables developers to create dynamic and interactive websites by generating HTML content on the server and delivering it to the client's web browser. PHP's versatility and seamless integration with SQL databases make it a powerful tool for building feature rich dynamic web applications. PHP is a server side scripting language, meaning the code is executed on the web server before the final HTML is sent to the user's browser. Unlike client side technologies like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, PHP allows developers to perform various server side tasks, such as connecting to a wide range of databases, such as MySQL, PostgreSQL, I'm probably not pronouncing that right, and Microsoft SQL Server, executing SQL queries, processing form data, and dynamically generating web content. So we see here we have a PHP file. It goes to the PHP server. The MySQL, this is where we get the data. It goes to the PHP server. Then it goes as a dynamic page to the web browser. And the web browser does the request to the server. The most common way for PHP to connect to SQL databases is using the PHP data object, PDO extension, or specific database server drivers like MySQL for MySQL or SQL Server for SQL Server. The connection is typically established by providing parameters such as the host, username, password, and database name. After establishing a database connection, we can execute SQL queries through PHP and dynamically generate HTML content based on the returned data to display information such as user profiles, product listings, or blog articles. Returning to our example, if we want our PHP script to fetch information regarding any green colored ornaments, we can introduce the following lines. Okay, so select star from ornaments where color equals green. And then the result, the query is executed. We pass in the connection, we pass in the query, which is this here, and then it's saved in the result. Okay. In the above snippet, we first save our SQL query into a variable named query. This query instructs the database to retrieve all rows from the ornaments table where the color is set to green. We then use the SQL Server query function to execute this query by passing it to a database connection object connection, or con. You could think of the result variable as a container that holds the outcome of the SQL query, allowing you to iterate through the rows and access the data within those rows. Later in the script, you can use this result object to fetch and display data, making it a crucial part of the process when working with databases in PHP. So, let me see. I want to see because I think it's been 5 minutes. Festival. Okay, saying it's not fun. Festival. Okay, maybe that's not the website. Okay, I'm kind of like jumping ahead. Oh, I think I might have an IP address. Okay, so okay, 253. I was trying to type the name, but I have an actual IP address. So let's see if it goes to it. Okay, we're gonna wait. Let's see. Okay. This is taking. Maybe let me try HTTPS. Okay, user input. While the ability to execute SQL queries in PHP allows us to interact with our database, the real power of database driven web applications lies in the making these queries dynamic. In our previous example, we hard coded the query to fetch green ornaments. However, real world applications often require users to interact with the data. For instance, let's imagine we want to provide users with the ability to search for ornaments of their choice. In this case, we want to create dynamic queries that can be adjusted based on user input. Okay, one common way to take in user supply data in web applications is through get parameters. These parameters are typically appended to the URL and can be accessed by PHP. They allow users to specify their search criteria or input, making it a valuable tool for interactive web applications. Okay, we could create a simple search form with an input field for users to specify the color of ornaments they want. Upon submitting the form, the website makes a GET request to the search results page, including the user's search parameters within the URL. PHP can access the user's input as a GET parameter and dynamically generate a query based on that input. So we're getting, here is our GET request, and we're doing the color. Now, we're saving that value into a variable called color, and then we're going the same, we're executing the query and we're passing in the color, and then the result is what's being returned. Now, there is a problem because this is user input and it's not being generated. I mean, it's not being sanitized, meaning that a user can type in anything and it will be passed directly into the query. The above snippet sets the color variable to the retrieve value of the color URL parameter. That variable then gets passed into the query string. Now, users can dynamically control the query being executed by the database simply by modifying the URL parameter they include in their request. For example, if you pass in green, right? So this is the GET request. So it's going to say select from table ornament where color equals green. This simple example shows how powerful PHP and SQL can be in creating rich dynamic websites. Okay. Why is this timing out? This is my. Oh. Okay. I figured out. Dot 10. What is it? Okay, because I typed in the wrong. 10, 10, 253, 148. Okay. Whew. Okay, no wonder why. It wasn't working because I typed in the wrong IP address. Whew, Jesus. Okay. So, manually navigate. Okay. Manually navigate the deface website to find the vulnerability search form. Okay. Okay, so gift search .php. Okay. So we answered the first question. Woohoo. Okay, let's keep going. Okay. Okay. SQL injection. Taking in user supply input gives us powerful ways to create dynamic content, but failing to secure this input correctly can expose a critical vulnerability known as SQL injection. So that's what I was mentioning earlier. SQL injection is an attack technique that exploits how web applications handle user input, particularly in SQL queries. Instead of providing legitimate input, like the ornament color in the example above, the attacker injects malicious SQL statements into a web application's input fields or parameters. The application's database server then executes this rogue SQL query. SQL injection vulnerabilities pose a considerable risk to web applications as they can lead to unauthorized access, data theft, data manipulation, or even the complete compromise of a web application in its underlying database through remote code execution. If an attacker can control which queries the database executes, they can control the database functions performed and the data returned. As such, the impact can be catastrophic, ranging from exposing sensitive user information to causing significant data breaches. SQL injection vulnerabilities continue to be highly pervasive despite numerous advancements to mitigate them. This type of vulnerability is featured prominently in the OWASP Top 10 list of critical web application security risks. A03 2021, so that's the latest top 10, is 2021 in the injection category. When a web application incorporates user input into SQL queries without proper validation and sanitization, without sanitizing, it opens the door to SQL injection. For example, consider our previous PHP code for fetching user input to search for ornament colors. As I said before, the color is being retrieved from user input, and then it's being stored in a variable that's being called in the query. Without adequate security measures, an attacker can manipulate the color parameter to execute malicious SQL queries. For instance, instead of searching for a benign color, they might input quote or 1 equals 1 as the input parameter, which would transfer the query into, so the quote will close the color, and then or 1 equals 1, and then the hyphens are comments. So anything after the two hyphens are treated as comments and they will not be executed. So why are we using this or 1 equals 1? So in mathematics, 1 equals 1. 1 is always going to equal 1. It is called a tautology. In mathematics, a tautology is something that is always true. It could be raining outside, 1 equals 1. The sky could be falling, 1 equals 1. The world could be on fire, 1 equals 1. It is a tautology. No matter the situation, 1 is always going to equal 1. So using this or here, so notice in the query, we're not providing a color. So without this, it will be like, hey, you didn't provide a color. I don't have a color of blank. But with the or parameter, it's saying one of these has to be true. So either we provide a color, which we didn't, or 1 equals 1. And since 1 equals 1 is a tautology, and that's always going to be true, that means this query is going to be true because 1 equals 1. And what's going to happen is it's going to dump the entire database. Okay, so let's see. As the query above shows, the attacker injected the malicious payload into the dynamic query. Let's take a look at the payload in more detail. Quote or is part of the injected code, where or is a logical operator in SQL that allows for multiple conditions. In this case, the injected code appends a secondary where condition in the query. 1 equals 1 is the condition following the or operator. This condition is always true because in SQL, 1 equals 1 is a simple equality check where the left and right sides are equal. Since 1 always equals 1, this condition always evaluates to true. And in mathematics, this is called a tautology. The two hyphens at the end of the input is a comment in SQL. It tells the database server to ignore everything that comes after it. Ending with a comment is crucial for the attacker because it nullifies the rest of the query and ensures that any additional conditions or syntax in the original query are effectively ignored. The condition color is empty, and the or one equals one condition is always true, effectively making the entire where condition true for every row in the table. So it's going to dump the table. And that's what they showed here. It's dumping the table. As a result, this SQL injection successfully manipulates the query to return all rows from the ornaments table, regardless of the actual ornament color values. This is a classic example of an SQL injection payload where the attacker leverages the or one equals one condition to bypass any intended conditions or logic in the query and retrieve data they are not supposed to access. A caution around or one equals one. It's crucial to emphasize the potential risk of using the or one equals one payload. While commonly used for illustration, injecting it without caution can lead to unintended havoc on a database. While injecting or one equals one into a query, the intention is typically to bypass authentication or return all items in a table by making the condition always true. However, the risks lie in that you might not be aware of the context and scope of the query you're injecting into. Additionally, applications may sometimes use values from an initial request in multiple SQL queries. SQL injection payloads that return all rows can lead to unintended consequences when injected into different types of statements, such as update or delete. Imagine injecting it into a query that updates a specific user's information. An or one equals one payload will make the condition true for every row, leading to a mass update affecting all records or users in the table. This lack of specificity in the payload makes it a risky choice for penetration testers who might inadvertently cause significant data loss or alterations. A safer example would be a more targeted condition based on a known attribute identifying the record you want to manipulate. For example, Bob and one equals one will update Bob's record, while Bob and one equals two will not, because one does not equal two. This still demonstrates the SQL injection vulnerability without putting the entire table's records at risk. For a particular example, check out the lessons learned room. Fortunately, the development team behind the Best Festival website has confirmed that the website does not run any unpredictable queries and has permitted us to use this payload to demonstrate the vulnerability. Stacked queries. SQL injection attacks can come in various forms. A technique that often gives an attacker a lot of control is known as a stacked query. Stacked queries enable attackers to terminate the original intended query and execute additional SQL statements in a single injection, potentially leading to more severe consequences such as data modification and calls to store procedures or functions. In SQL, the semicolon typically signifies one statement's conclusion and another's commencement. This feature facilitates the execution of multiple SQL statements within a single interaction with the database server. It's important to note that certain web application technologies and database management systems, or DBMS, may demand different syntax or lack support for stacked queries. Consequently, enumeration is essential for precision when conducting injection attacks. Suppose our attacker in the previous example wants to go beyond just retrieving all rows and intends to insert some malicious data into the database. They can modify the previous payload to this. So we're going to insert into table ornaments 109, evil red, broken candy cane, coal, and it's 99.99. Why would someone want to do that? Ugh. When the web application processes this input, here's the resulting query the database will execute. So select star from ornaments where color is blank, and then this ends the first query, then the second will start. So then we will insert evil red, broken candy cane in 99.99. As a result, the attacker successfully ends the original query using a semicolon and introduces an additional SQL statement to insert malicious data into the ornaments table. This showcases the potential impact of stacked queries, allowing attackers to not only manipulate the retrieved data but also perform permanent data modification. Okay. Okay, we still have some to go. Let's see. So if I go to gift search, toys, I'm going to say a budget of 30. Okay, so now I am going to change the age to a tick. Okay. Well, what is the driver? So it's this here. ODBC driver 17 for SQL server. Okay. So we answer that, inject the 1 equals 1 condition into the gifts of search form. Okay, so I'm going to say toys. I'm going to say budget is 20. Okay. So we answer that. Let's go up. Okay. So we're testing. Testing for SQL injection is a critical aspect of web application security assessments. It involves probing the application to identify vulnerabilities where an attacker can manipulate user-supplied input to execute unauthorized SQL queries. To continue our mission, let's navigate to the Deface Best Festival Company website to see if we can identify vulnerable input that leads to SQL injection. If you haven't already, we started. Okay, so we went to the IP. I've tried bestfestival.thm. That did not work. Okay, so navigating the website as an end user to understand its functionality and offerings is a great place to start. This manual enumeration allows us to identify the areas in the application where user input is accepted and used in SQL queries. This can include search fields, login forms, and any input fields that interact with the database. You may need to navigate to the correct page containing the vulnerable component, so be sure to click on any buttons or links you find. Browse the website manually until you find a form that accepts user input and might be querying a database. After locating the Give Search feature, we can confirm our suspicions by simply filling out the form with the expected values. So that's what we did here. Child toys budget of 30. The underlying PHP code is taking in the 3 parameters we specify for age, interest, and budget, as separated by the ampersand character, and querying the database to retrieve the filtered results and output them to the page. Now that we've identified an area of the website where user input is accepted and used to generate dynamic SQL queries, we can test if it's vulnerable to any injection attack. To do this, we can alter the parameters to test how the application handles unexpected characters. So we did that by changing the child to quote, and that's when we got the error, and then we found the ODBC driver. Okay, an error message is returned. So it's this. The error we receive is a huge breakthrough, as it gives us many details on the underlying database management system powering this website and confirms that the user input is unsanitized. This error message shows that Microsoft SQL Server is the database manager due to the banners and driver information between the square brackets. The information we gather will soon be helpful. Error message enumeration is critical to SQL injection testing because it equips attackers with valuable information for crafting more precise and effective attack payloads. Because of this, it's always essential to monitor and sanitize error messages to prevent sensitive information from leaking. Although we don't have access to the source code at this point, we can visualize what the underlying PHP script might look like. So we're getting the age, interest, and budget, and we're passing those values in to the query. It's just the query is dynamically generated, and we're using user input. That's how we were able to get the SQL injection. Script is likely extracting the values from the URL parameters in an unsanitized way, directly inserting them into the SQL query to be executed. If we break out of the hard-coded query by injecting our own SQL syntax, we can manipulate the request and consequently the return data. Okay, so let's attempt to do that. So I'm going to change this to the or 1 equals 1. Okay, so here we didn't pass an age. Age is blank. And then the or 1 equals 1 is going to be true because 1 equals 1 always equals 1. That's a tautology. And then the two hyphens is comment. So whatever is after the 1 equals 1 is not going to be executed. Okay. So if we scroll down, okay. So we found it. Okay, there's a flag. Okay, by injecting our payload and commenting out the rest of the query, we can bypass the intended filter and avoid errors to retrieve all GIF results regardless of the specified parameters. Okay, so that is here. Paste. Submit. Okay. Now, okay. I'm doing this one by one. Okay. So, we have successfully dumped the database table and returned all 636 rows to the page. This is a very simple example and a suitable proof of concept, POC, that this website is vulnerable to SQL injection. However, it's unlikely that the attacker who defaced the Best Festival company did so by returning GIF results. Let's explore possible methods to execute system commands via our newly found attack vector. So, calling stored procedures. As mentioned, stack queries can be used to call stored procedures or functions within a database management system. You can think of a stored procedure as extended functions offered by certain database systems serving various purposes such as enhancing performance and security and encapsulating complex data logic. A Microsoft SQL Server stored procedure XP command shell is a specific command that allows for executing operating system calls. If we can exploit a stacked query to call a stored procedure, we might be able to run operating system calls and obtain remote code execution. As we previously confirmed, the database system in our example is Microsoft SQL Server. With that in mind, let's dive deeper into the command shell procedure. Okay. So, XP Command Shell is a system extended store procedure in Microsoft SQL Server that enables the execution of operating system commands and programs from within SQL Server. It provides a mechanism for SQL Server to interact directly with the host operating system's command shell. While it can be a powerful administrative tool, it can also be a security risk if not used cautiously when enabled. Because of the known risks involved, it's recommended that the functionality is disabled on production servers and is by default. However, due to misconfigurations and legacy applications that require it, it's common to see it enabled in the wild. For example, suppose you have an HR management system that needs to export data periodically to a CSV file and upload it to an external server. Instead of using more secure and modern methods like SQL Server integration services or custom application code, legacy applications may have opted to rely on XP Command Shell to execute system level commands to export the data. While this accomplishes the same task, it poses security and maintainability risks and grants excessive system access to the SQL Server. It is also possible to manually enable XP Command Shell and SQL Server through execute queries. Still, it requires the database user to be a member of the sysadmin fixed server role or have the alter settings server level permissions to execute this command. However, as mentioned previously, misconfigurations that allow this execution are not too uncommon. We can attempt to enable XP Command Shell on the Best Festival Company database by stacking the following commands using the SQL injection we discovered. So we're executing the store procedure configure, show advanced options. So we're turning that on. That's what this one stands for, reconfigure. Then we're going to execute the store procedure configure. The command shell, we're turning it on. That's what the one stands for, reconfigure. By injecting the above statements into SQL Server, we'll first enable advanced configuration options in SQL Server by setting Show Advanced Options to 1. We then apply the changes to the running configuration via the reconfigure statement. Next, we enable the XP command shell procedure by setting that to 1 and applying to the running configuration again. Okay, converting these into a single stack SQL injection payload will look like this. Um, so here we set the age to 0, and then that's the end of the first query. And then we're going to execute, we're going to turn it on. So let me copy this. Let me paste and go. Okay, by requesting the URL with these parameters, we should be able to execute the stack queries and enable the XP command shell procedure. With this feature enabled, we can execute any Windows shell command through the execute or EXEC statement followed by the command name. Unfortunately, one of the caveats to this approach is that it returns its results as rows of text. This means that typically the output will never be returned to the user since the injection no longer occurs in the original intended query. Because of this, we are often in the dark as to whether our injection worked, but there are ways to validate whether or not our approach is working. So, we are using remote code execution. Let's confirm if we have remote code execution by attempting to execute cert util on the target machine. This command is a native Windows command line program installed as part of certificate services. It's handy in engagements because it is a binary signed by Microsoft and allows us to use HTTP or HTTPS, which is the secure connections. In our scenario, we can use it to make an HTTP request to download a file from a web server that we control to confirm that the command was executed. To set this up, let's create a malicious payload using MSF Venom, allowing us to eventually upgrade our SQL injected shell into a more standard reverse shell. You could think of a reverse shell as the remote computer, so in this case, the Best Festival web server, initiating a connection back to our attack box, which we're listening for. Once the connection is established, we can gain control of the remote system and interact with the target machine directly. This is the opposite of a target remote access scenario, where the user is the client and the target machine is the server. Okay, MSF Venom is a command line payload generation tool. It's part of the Metasploit framework, a widely used penetration testing and ethical hacking set of utilities. MS Venom is explicitly designed for payload generation and can be used to generate a Windows executable that, when executed, will make a reverse shell connection back to our attack box. We can run the following command on a Kali or the attack box. Okay, so the L host is our attack box IP. Okay, so this is our attack box IP here. So I am going to open the terminal and I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste and I'm going to change this 10, 10, 40, 31. Okay. It will take a moment to generate, but once completed, you will have created a reverse.exe Windows executable file that will establish a reverse TCP connection to your IP address over port 4444 when executed on the target. With our payload created, which is right here, we can set up a quick HTTP server on our attack box using Python to serve the file. So I'm going to open another. Oh, okay. I didn't want that. Jesus. Okay. I just want to open new terminal. Okay. So I'm going to say new tab. Okay, Python mhep.server 8000. So that means we're starting our server on 8000. Okay, by running the above command, we will set up a lightweight web server on port 8000 that we can use to serve our payload. All the files in our current directory, including reverse.exe, will be served using this method and will be accessible for the Best Festival server to download. It's time to use our stack queries to call xp command and execute the cert util.exe command on the target to download our payload. Okay, ensure to fill in your attack box URL. Okay, so we're going to copy. I'm going to open this again. I'm going to paste. Okay. I want to change. Okay, so this is the attack box. So that would be 10, 10, 40, 31. Okay, so let's see. Yep, it worked because we were able to hit it. The above SQL statement will call certutil to download reverse.exe file from our Python HTTP server and save it to the Windows temp directory for later use. After requesting the above URL to execute the stack query, we should immediately know if we are successful by checking the output of our HTTP server. There should be a request for reverse.exe, and that's right here. And with the status of 200, that means it was successful. Great progress. We've achieved remote code execution and now have our reverse shell payload on the target system. All we have to do now is set up a listener to catch the shell and then have the system execute the payload executable. To set up our listener, we can use the netcat utility on the attack box to listen on port 4444. So that's what I'm going to do now. MVLP 444. Okay. The same port we specified in our payload. Here. Right there. Netcat is a versatile network utility that can be used for reading from and writing to network connections. You can press Ctrl-C in the terminal to first close your HTTP server. So I'm going to do that. Alternatively, you can open up a new terminal window. Now we can run one final stacked query to execute the reverse exe file we previously saved in the C Windows temp directory. So we're going to do this. Let me go here. Let me go there. Let me do that. So you see it's hanging, right? And that's because we're in the Windows system. After requesting the above URL, return to the netcat listener terminal window. You should see that we caught the shell and made the connection. So now we're in the Best Festival Windows system. So we have successfully did a reverse shell into the Best Festival server. With that, we now have a reverse shell connection into the Best Festival web server we were previously locked out of. Now it's time to use our newfound access and restore the defaced content. Now that we have gained interactive control over the web server, let's see if any clues might help us restore the site. Okay, so cd, c users. Okay. Now, C users is a good place to start. This directory holds documents and information for each user profile on the system. It's worth mentioning that another legacy misconfiguration has worked in our favor. Providing the SQL server service account, we connected with administrator level permissions on the system. This higher level of access may provide us with the capabilities we need to investigate and rectify the issue. Navigate to the users directory and explore the administrator folder. So administrator. Okay. Here we'll see the subdirectories for hints or files that can guide us in restoring the website and saving the best festival company's reputation. So I'm going to go desktop. Okay, so type in. Okay, hey hacker, I received your Bitcoin payment. Thanks again for a speedy transaction. After you gain access to the system to the server, you can deface the website by running the deface website back script in the desktop. Feel free to dump the database and steal whatever you want. If you need to revert the changes back to the original site for any reason, just um, restore website.bat from the same directory. Also, I shouldn't need to mention this, but please delete this note after defacing the website. Do not let this hack tie back to me. Too late. We have ya. Okay, so run restore website.bat. Oh, restore website.bat. Restore that. Okay. Okay, that was weird. Okay, so I'm a I'm gonna go here. Oh, that was real smart. Okay, and there is our flag. Oh, we have returned it back. Woohoo! Okay. Now we've returned it. Great work. You managed to restore the Best Festival Company website. The gift search feature has been disabled until a fix is issued. Okay, so now conclusion: with Elf exploit McRare's determination and cunning spirit, the Best Festival Company's website was restored to its former glory. The joyful enchantment was woven back into the pages, and access to the server was regained. With your help, the team can now focus on completing the incident response process, ensuring that Christmas preparations are back on schedule, and investigating who was behind the mysterious forum post. Well, we know that. To protect your applications and data from SQL injection attacks, consider the following coding best practices. Input validation. Sanitize and validate all user supplied input to ensure it adheres to expected data types and formats. Reject any input that doesn't meet validation criteria. This is very important, especially as a developer. We all automatically assume all user input is bad, and you need to sanitize and validate it. Parameterized statements. Use prepared statements and parameterized queries in your database interactions. Parameterized queries automatically escape user input, making it difficult for attackers to inject malicious SQL. Stored procedures. Use stored procedures to encapsulate your SQL logic whenever possible. This reduces the risk of SQL injection by separating user input from SQL code. And so we solved everything. And if you enjoyed that, check out the software security module. So this was fun. I love web. Web is life. So SQL injections, I've done this before, and CTFs and other things, and I love it. Oh, I just love it. Web is life. So I hope you learned something in this video, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Have a good day. Bye.